Okay, let's take a look at somatostatin. Now, somatostatin is actually there's a lot going on with this as far as it's kind of bringing in two different things. You'll see this here in just a second. So, somatostatin also goes by the name growth hormone inhibiting hormone. Now, this is kind of what I was talking about. Somatostatin is secreted by delta cells, and these delta cells are in several locations around the body. Just to name a few, you do have them in the digestive system, and we're going to specifically talk about the ones that are located in the pancreas. There's also some in the small intestine and some in the stomach, but we're just going to talk about the somatostatin as secreted by the delta cells in the pancreas. Now, that's not the only place. So, somatostatin is kind of found in a lot of areas. We're not going to talk about diseases and disorders. Now, the stimulus for the secretion of somatostatin is going to depend on where it's being secreted from. So, one place that it's secreted from is the pancreas. So, we're going to call it pancreatic somatostatin. So that way you know which place it's being secreted from. Because again, it's going to depend on where it's from as to what the stimulus is. So for pancreatic somatostatin, the stimulus is just eating because the presence of these macromolecules, and as they get broken down through the process of digestion, and you end up with the monomers that make them up, the glucose, the amino acids, the fatty acids, these trigger the secretion of somatostatin from the pancreas. Now, the somatostatin coming from the hypothalamus is going to be triggered by the presence of too much growth hormone. So, high growth hormone levels are what's going to trigger the hypothalamus to secrete somatostatin. So, it's kind of in two separate pathways. So, we're going to talk about somatostatin in this video, but we're going to bring it in again when we talk about growth hormone in a separate video. This is more for the digestive. So, again, two places that we're going to talk about that it gets secreted from. One of those places is the pancreas, just like what we've talked about with glucagon and insulin. It is a hormone, so it's getting secreted from the hormone area of the pancreas, which is known as the islets of Langerhans cells or islets of Langerhans, and the cells that produce it are the delta cells located within the islets of Langerhans. So these are the delta cells. And this little symbol here, it kind of looks like an kind of an S, kind of an 8, not finished yet. That's the Greek letter for delta. So that's why this weird letter here. It's like, what is that? That's the Greek letter for the lowercase letter delta. And again, it's also secreted from, so not only is it secreted from the delta cells of the pancreas, it's also secreted from the hypothalamus. And if you remember, if we name it coming from the hypothalamus as growth hormone inhibiting hormone, you recognize that inhibiting is, oh, okay, that's one of those regulatory hormones that we talked about. So again, it could be also secreted from the hypothalamus. So where is it going? What's the target? Well, if it's coming from the hypothalamus, then it's going to target the pituitary gland and it's going to inhibit the secretion of growth hormone and it's going to inhibit the secretion of thyroid stimulating hormone. So when we talk about growth hormone and we talk about thyroid stimulating hormone in future videos, we will bring in again somatostatin because it's part of that chain of reactions. We're going to again make sure we talk about the pancreas and the target for that. Now it's kind of interesting because the secretion occurs in the pancreas and the target is the pancreas. So the delta cells of the pancreas generate somatostatin when those nutrients are present, and it inhibits the alpha cells and the beta cells. And the alpha cells are secreting the glucagon, the beta cells are secreting the insulin. So it's going to inhibit those. So the primary function, if you just look at somatostatin in general, just as a big overview, is to basically prevent the production of all other hormones. and I shouldn't say all other hormones, but a lot of other hormones. And interestingly enough, whoops, backwards, sorry, to stop the unnatural rapid reproduction of cells. And you're like, wait a minute, that kind of sounds like cancer. And you're absolutely right. So somatostatin is present to help stop the spread of cancer cells. So that's kind of interesting. Now, it is a peptide hormone, and there's two different versions. There's two different active forms. You got somatostatin that's 14 amino acids long, and somatostatin that is 28 amino acids long. I'm not going to ask you that. Bottom line, you need to know it's a peptide hormone. I just thought it was kind of cool that it's got two different active forms. And again, we will come back and revisit somatostatin in future videos as stimulus for the secretion or inhibition of other hormones.